Thank you again, Sydney. Miss Sydney King, for joining us today for our Women Work Wonder Career Spotlight Initiative here at UMD, also a UMD alum. So go Terps. So just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Sure. Again, my name is Sydney King. I graduated from University of Maryland in 2019 with my bachelor's in information systems and marketing. And then I continued at Maryland for my master's in information systems through the Robert H. Smith School of Business +1 program. And I graduated a year later in 2020. Um, my journey at Maryland, I loved it. I was active in a lot of organizations. I was a community assistant in resident life. I was the chapter president for the Kappa chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Um, I also was involved in a lot of different business school mentorship programs, and during my master's year, I was on the Diversity Empowerment Council as well. So definitely a lot of facets that I was involved in. But as far as my career journey, I started interning at Northrop Grumman in 2017. And I started as a systems engineering intern, and I was focusing more on like business systems engineering and business development initiatives. And I've been at Northrop pretty much ever since my internship. I completed 3 internships throughout my time in college, all the way through right before finishing my master's, and then um, I went on to what they call an early careers pathways program. And so I did 3-year-long rotations where I got to look into different areas of the company and explore different programs. And then I landed with the chief data office and was doing like data analytics work. And then now I support, I'm still with Northrop Grumman, and I work in AI governance.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of like different experiences you were able to grasp. I wasn't expecting all of that. So it sounds like you had a wealth of experiences with Grumman. Is that
Yeah.
I'm pronouncing that right? Grumman, and that pathway to that program, also the involvement that you had. So before we get into like the day-to-day of your work and how you got there, can you tell me a little bit about growing up? What do you think your life would be like today? And what was the career journey to get here? What is it what you envisioned today?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
I always I was always interested in tech. I'll say that. So I always had a keen interest in like the new technologies. I was always like looking to get the latest and greatest, like iPhones or iPods that were coming out, new MacBooks and things of that nature. So always had a keen interest in tech, and I knew that at some point in my career I wanted to utilize tech down the line. And so um, at one point I thought that was going to pivot. I thought I was going to like potentially look into journalism, but then I realized
wow.
no, that's not what I really want to do. So I stayed with the tech route, and in high school I was in a magnet program, and it's similar to how we have majors in college, but it's a specialized magnet program which you study pretty much for your 4 years in high school. And so in that program, I took on information technology, and that had a various breadth of topics that we covered, from like software development to computer networks, computer hardware. We were following the Cisco Networking Academy curriculum, so learning how to build Ethernet cables, just kind of like very from fundamental to advanced level, I guess base level information technology concepts. And when I was looking into going to college, I still wanted to pursue that route, but I wanted to kind of leverage those foundational concepts into more like delivering business value. And so when looking at Maryland's program for information systems, I looked at the curriculum and I thought to myself, like, this will give me a really good breadth of experience from a learning curriculum standpoint, but also allow me to apply that whenever I get a job or internship. So that's the route I took with going from information and technology in high school to information systems in college. So pretty much pursued that route ever since high school. And really just looking as when I got to Maryland, I wanted to really understand more on like how to utilize data to deliver business value, look into different digital transformation techniques, understanding like predictive analytics and how I can use that to interpret maybe business problems that were looking to be solved. So that was kind of like the journey that took me to where I am today. And then just continuing that like keen sense of learning as I was going to college, my master's program, internships. And even now today, I feel like with AI being such a big buzzword in today's climate, it's always new and innovative technologies to learn about. So that's kind of
Very much so. We're trying to upkeep with it too here at UMD, but in general at the UCC. So today, like they had an AI lunch. So, like you said, it's very much new experiences and things forthcoming, I guess you can say, from the field. From listening to you, you talked a lot about your experiential learning opportunities, right? From the magnet school or magnet program in your high school to the experiences in at UMD in general, and then the +1 program and being able to define your own career. Can you speak more a little bit more about how you got introduced into those experiential opportunities, and then what did you find impactful about those experiences?
yeah, sure. So um, with the business school, there's always like companies coming in. I think they called it the career table. And there was always someone in Van Munching Hall where whether it be like Deloitte, like the big four, Deloitte, EY, companies such as them to come and talk about their experiences. But even going to like the career center, the business school even had their own like I want to call it like a universe or connection hub where you can talk with different employers. You can do information interview prep with them. So it was just a lot of different experiences. And I always like told myself I never wanted to be complacent. I always wanted to look for those new opportunities. And so I kind of just I sought out a lot of opportunities just through research. Some of the programs that I did external to Maryland were one was with they were kind of in partnership, but one was with Bloomberg, and I got to go to New York for like a day and see a panel of employers who work there just to tell you more about the business. And that kind of brought insights to like overall what the company does and what opportunities they may have, if seeing if it's a good fit for you, even just networking with other like-minded students and even professionals at the time. Another event that I did was the career combine with Under Armour. And I think if I remember correctly, I was a part of their inaugural like class. So it was their first time ever doing it. And it was neat to see. It was at the headquarters in Baltimore and got to kind of understand like the brand behind Under Armour, where it started, looking into like the marketing initiatives that they do and like building out product features. So I think we got to like design a product for like a shoe that they were developing. So just kind of like seeing how you learn things in school and can apply it to a real life business application, I think was really cool. And then something that I did in my senior year, I remember it was at Georgia Tech. It was a data science for social good workshop. And it was interesting to like hear from a lot of either people who just received their PhDs or were PhD candidates, sharing their research on how they used like data and different technologies to improve areas for social good. So like helping more impoverished areas or like improving healthcare, like how can you use data at hand to improve maybe systems that are in place. So those were just some of like the external experiences that I looked into while in school, and then just seeking those opportunities still like while in the professional scene, I think is helpful to me.
Thank you for sharing that, Sydney. I think there's a lot of hesitancy with outside experience, right? Especially, particularly in the field that you're in for women, right? Just to talk about it, right? Um, or how have you navigated those spaces as a woman or someone who identifies as a woman in that type of space?
Yeah, I think at sometimes it can be challenging, especially being in a predominantly male field. But I think in recent years, there have been more women in that you see in these fields, and I think that's encouraging. Also just kind of like following like thought leaders on LinkedIn, and seeing a bit more emphasis on like women leadership, I think is important. With my team now, there's probably the most women I've worked with in my professional career ever. So that's it's great to have like-minded counterparts on your team. But I think one of the biggest things is just having that confidence and knowing that you can do the same things, if not better sometimes, than your so just always having that in the back of my head, and kind of never letting that, like, even if you walk into a room and you might be the only female in the room, just knowing that you were brought here for a reason, and that you have a place and you have a voice as well. So I think those are just kind of key tidbits that I always try to remember when being in such a male predominantly field, especially within tech. It's a lot. But I try to not let those challenges deter me from different opportunities.
So, thank you for that positive note, right? How do you then build, or have you built community to support you in those spaces, right? Like you said, to show up knowing that you have the skill sets, you were brought here for a reason. What does community look like for you?
Yeah. So I think a lot of that started in college. Well, even post college, or even before college, but I always really tried to have a strong group of friends just from growing up. But I think in college, just when I joined my sorority, just emphasizing the impact of sisterhood, and bringing community together with the power of women, I think that really made me want to do more for women with women. So I think it started there. It expanded there, I'll say, not started. But I think also just having mentors in my professional career has definitely helped. They kind of help you navigate in areas where you might feel like you're struggling, or you might need more advice on. And I think having women mentors has been helpful for me, and just kind of like navigating from even within the last year, navigating from moving up to a promotion level. So just understanding the right things to say, knowing what you need to have on your resume, just key tactics you should go about in like a professional manner. But then I think outside of an external or a professional setting, I think just having like a sense of community, like I mentioned with my sorority, still very close to all of my line sisters, and even those who aren't line sisters. But I think it really helps just kind of build that strength of like sisterhood, and knowing that you always will have someone in your corner. I think that is just kind of like the beauty of it, and just evolving friendships over time.
Thank you for sharing that, especially about like your involvement with your sorority. I think, the balance of that personal mentorship and professional mentorship, a lot of people, struggle with that and how to blend or harmonize the two. So Sydney, what is the most satisfying part of the work you get to do? What are the most appealing to you in this AI tech, business tech field that you're trailblazing in right now?
Yeah, so For me, I recently started in this AI governance role probably about 7 months ago, so still fairly new.
Oh, that
Uh,
is new.
still fairly new in the field, but I think the thing that I like most about AI is that there's always areas for growth and learning. Like there's always a new technology, there's always just new inputs and insight from other like-minded individuals. I think that's what I like most about this role. I I like to say it's almost nice that sometimes I am uncomfortable because I get to grow. And something that I learned in college is like growth and comfortability don't coexist. And so being in uncomfortable spaces where and not to say that I'm not meant to be there, it's just I'm still I'm learning as I'm um absorbing all the information as well. So I think those
Mhm.
are key areas that I love most about the role is that as I'm working in the role, I'm also learning more about different AI systems and best practices for governance and how to implement that responsibly. Because there are a lot of risks with AI, and so just kind of understanding how to mitigate that and best use it in a most human oversight and responsible way, I think is very important. So just learning from the like-minded individuals, learning from the expert leaders who have been doing this for many years, and then just kind of taking that information and storing it and then applying it, I think has been the most rewarding so far.
Thank you for sharing that. If you are able to, because I know you work in, a specialized field in cybersecurity as well, can you describe what a day in your role looks like for a student who is interested?
Yeah, so it varies, I'll say. Every day is different, but just kind of to give a general overview of what I do, I so I sit on the AI governance team, and specifically what that entails is I help manage AI use cases that come through our queue and manage them to ensure that they are properly governed prior to utilizing for either like a pilot or production level use case. And then in addition to that, I help develop new frameworks and policies and procedures for overall implementing governance and ensuring that it's AI is being used responsibly at the company. So in short, that's pretty much what I do. Every day looks different, but I work on a team where we pretty much all work together and um, help understand and manage use cases and implement those frameworks so that we have processes in place so that we know how to particularly govern use cases and AI within the company. And then I work on the enterprise level. So there are other sectors that fall within the company as well. And we also partner with them in helping
Hmm.
um, deliver AI responsibly and make sure that it's governed properly.
Thank you for sharing and clarifying that. Um, so you spoke a little bit about resources, external like factors and support systems that you've had. To share a little bit of insight for those navigating the field, what resources or platforms have been most helpful to you in your career?
Yeah. One, I'd say YouTube. YouTube,
Oh, I love
uh,
that.
I think it's a free resource, and there's just so much information where you can pretty much search anything and it will come up. In addition to YouTube, I'd say LinkedIn is a great resource as well. I think for my perspective personally, I've seen more use of LinkedIn over time with just more thought leadership and maybe that's just because I'm getting older and more into my career now, but I think
No, it is being utilized more.
I think that having LinkedIn as a resource and kind of following either companies that are utilizing or within the same industry that one may be interested in, I think is helpful, or even key leaders in these spaces, because they provide so many resources that are available for one to kind of just read up on it and learn more about. LinkedIn also has a lot of different courses to take, some of which are free. So I think utilizing those resources just to like keep abreast on some skills, I think is always helpful, because I feel as though in this space, you never stop learning. Um,
Or
yeah, I think YouTube and LinkedIn are two of my favorites, but I think conferences also are helpful. Um, because within conferences, you can, depending on what type of conference it is, you can see like new product features and how they're being utilized. You can gauge new ideas, or you can see kind of where you're at within your company's scope and see maybe what new innovations you can bring, or new ideas you can bring to help tailor your business better. So I think conferences allow not only for networking, but deeper learning as well, or it could even just build upon your own your current understanding of a specific topic, and helping learn more about the topic of which you're there for. So
Mm.
I'd probably say I know some people like podcasts. I personally am not into podcasts like that. I have had a few people say like, or I've heard a few people say that podcasts are a great resource in just kind of digging deeper into understanding more about your field, or just as another resource. It might be easier for some people to listen and drive, or listen and walk, or be at the gym. And so it's not always just visible connections that you can make. You can also listen, and some podcasts are even video recorded as well. So I think that's
Wow.
a key resource too.
Yeah, I'm the podcast person. Sitting down in front is a luxury. But I do hear you about the LinkedIn courses and the YouTube utilization. Can you give an example of what courses you have utilized or taken?
Sure. So specifically, I'm actually not thinking of something on LinkedIn right now. In my previous role, I was working in data analytics and like
Mhm.
dashboards for executive leadership. So one of the I was one of the tools that I was primarily using was Tableau, and um, I took a few courses on Udemy, and they sometimes you have to pay for their courses, but more than likely they'll have a sale. And so I was able to catch it on sale and just took a few courses. They had some from basic level foundations of Tableau to advanced, and that just kind of helped get a really good understanding of the software itself. But there's also courses on LinkedIn regarding to Tableau that I've just kind of browsed, and if there's a specific topic that I need, I'd search for it. But I'd say between those two and then YouTube, I think were my top favorites, and just kind of looking for if I needed to understand a quick how to on Tableau, I'd search it and it popped right up, and there's plenty of examples where people provide insight and um, demos on how to utilize the tool. So those are some of my favorites.
Thank you. So currently, Sydney, I just had a workshop yesterday with those interested in the engineering, software development, business analytics, um, that are concerned about entry-level roles and how to make themselves distinguishable and find opportunities when they, finish their degree. What skills do you feel like you use the most or are most important for your work, and how to exemplify that in, their search?
Sure. So for like someone looking into a software development role, I'd probably say know like the key coding languages, or programming languages, excuse me. So probably like Python. Um, I think C is C plus. I'm not a software developer, so not
Okay.
on all the programming languages that one may need, and it varies per industry. Some even may use Linux based applications, so it could be different. But just having, I think Python is a really good one because that can be both applicable on not only just software engineering, but also business analytics,
Mm,
business data analytics area. I'd say maybe if you're going into like the data visualization scene, definitely Tableau. R is another good one to use as far as like coding softwares to use. But I really think a lot of it is problem solving and just having like a keen curiousness to learn. I think a lot of the work that I've done, I've learned on the job. And
mm,
I'll be frank, like going into this AI role, I didn't have like prior experience in AI specifically, but I had experience in problem solving and developing deliverables. So just kind of having those business applications, and I think those are important when seeking out roles and having those tangible examples and making sure that they're quantitative as well. Like you can add
mm,
metrics to the work that you've done. You can show how you've reduced time efforts in the work that you're doing. So I think just having those like key business applications really are helpful with getting a role. Having the skills behind it, I think is an additional boost, but I feel as though sometimes you learn those a lot on the job, and
mm,
especially for entry level roles. And sometimes it may be discouraging when looking for an entry level role and they say they want XYZ years of experience. And it's like, well, it's an entry level role. I'm trying to get that experience. I think just kind of having those tangible examples, even like school projects where you might use a specific software, or it might be like a business value proposition, kind of using those tangible examples in your resume, and even a portfolio that one may create just to uh, help boost their likelihood of getting the role. Something that I would always do is like for my projects that I did in school, I would just kind of keep a Google Drive or Google Doc of them, and noting like what I did, what was the purpose of it, what was the end result, and just some key metrics in there in the event that I
mm,
wanted to translate that over to my resume. And that way I just had like a whole repository of projects that I could potentially use, because you tailor
right.
to different roles that you apply to. So some examples work better for some roles than others. And I think
Mhm.
having that as a key resource when in school and even after school, like after you completed projects, is kind of having your own document of like, hey, this is what I've done. I accomplished XYZ, and just having those tangible metrics to it, I think is really important.
Thank you. I liked how you illustrated that. Um, So you mentioned some soft skills. Are there notable soft skills that like STEM tech students should note? I know that there's a lot of conversation about, like you said, these technical skills can be learned on, in the job, but like problem solving or mediating conflict or leadership or management, are those things like a theme within like the skill sets?
Yeah, I'd agree for sure. Problem solving is definite. Having good communication and being able to communicate not only within um your peer group, but also to like executive leadership. I think that gets important as you grow within your career. Um, Conflict management is also important because there may be times, and hopefully there isn't as many, but there may be times where you potentially have a conflict at work, and knowing how to mitigate that properly in a professional way, I think is really important. Having actionable work or actionable insights to the work that you've done, I think is also really important. But yeah, I think the soft skills are just as important um, as the technical skills, because they really work hand in hand. So especially in a role pertaining to like AI or any tech role like software engineering or um, any types of engineering, really, I think it applies both ways.
Thank you for affirming those. So you talk about your personal balance and, your community as well as this promotional role that you got within the last 7 months. How do you harmonize, like, I say harmonize because I feel like we can't really manage it, your work and your life balance?
Yeah, so I'm very, very busy all the time. One of the things that I've pretty much kept constant since probably middle school was having a physical planner. I think I also use Google Calendar, so I have both a physical planner and Google Calendar in addition to my Outlook calendar for work. So just calendar queen pretty much, but I think just documenting everything helps me with my work-life balance personally. If I don't write it down, I'll more than likely forget or sometimes I'll randomly remember, but I think writing down everything is extremely important. And then just having the Google Calendar, I like to color code it personally and just knowing when I have specific events, knowing when I have work events, but also that helps me know when I can say no to things. Um,
Mm.
I think, and this is something I'm still working on, but I think learning to say no, and setting those boundaries is extremely important. And having that rest period so you don't incur burnout. Um, I feel as though there's so many things happening in the world and today's climate is just pretty much all over the place. So I think with having set aside time for rest and making sure that not only mentally I'm okay, but physically as well,
Mhm.
helps me in my day to day, not only with work, but with personal. So I just really Google Calendar and my planner are my friends. And sometimes people laugh at me for having the dual calendars, but I think it works for me and it's been working for me for a few years now, and so I'll continue it.
No, I have it too. Balancing full-time and school. So I understand you, Sydney, and appreciate that still. In the world of technology, right? People, everything's more efficient, but a paper planner is
Yep.
key, to me. Color coding is key to me too. So thank you. So before we end off with my last question, many students feel like they have their career figured out early in undergrad. You talked about like pivoting careers earlier in our conversation. What advice would you give to students wanting to do similar work or like trying to pivot into the work?
Yeah, I think it's important in your early career to navigate different areas just to kind of see early on what you like and what you don't like. And that was one of the most things I liked about the early careers pathway program that Northrop Grumman has is that I was able to see different areas within the company. I was able to switch sectors at one point, just to kind of get a different feel for the business and different programs, working under different leadership. So you can kind of attest what type of leadership you like, what styles you work best in. Um, so I think with having um, having those different experiences are key. But also kind of having, I guess, maybe like your top three, I'd say, areas in which you're interested in going into, because sometimes I feel as though having a extremely extensive list might limit you into where you want to go. So maybe kind of having a niche of like skills or areas in which you want to look into. And they might kind of flow similarly. So there might be a pathway in which you take. But I think it varies and understanding what skill sets you want to build upon. I think those are important to look for in roles that you want to gain experience in. So not only just having the industry or the type of role that you're looking into, but what are you trying to gain from it? What experience are you looking to improve upon? Which areas do you feel that need more growth? I think those are really important when kind of navigating a role that one may be seeking. And
Mm.
I think with the roles that are out today, they're always changing.
Mhm.
Because I remember when looking for roles, I didn't see as many roles with like AI in them. And now today you probably see more roles with AI in them. So times have changed and they're going to continue to evolve, especially in this technology space. But I think just kind of having those key standard um, ideas in which you want to go, and maybe are there areas, maybe consider like if one wants to stay technical or if you want to go a managerial route, like what experiences do you or would you may need or
Mm.
what you need to get to that managerial role or get to that senior technical level role. So I think those are important as well to look into, because some people might not want to go into the managerial route. So they might do a different path and just look to build upon like the technical skills. But someone who's looking to go in a manager route, they might look to have more people skills within their job and working on specific programs and leadership roles. So I say all that to say, I think it varies based on what you're looking for, but just kind of having those, I guess, three ideas or areas in which you're aiming to go towards, and then
Mhm.
kind of building off of that when searching.
Like goal setting and
Yeah. Yep.
having a plan for that, right? So as a woman who work wonder, can you share one accomplishment or one joy that you are proud of contributing to in your career walk?
Oh, that's a good one. I'd say within the last, I'd say within like the last 3 years, I feel as though I finally, because moving, I'll start back. Um, Going into my career, I was introduced to like systems engineering work, um, on like an engineering level, and working on specific programs. And I always was drawn to data and like making those data driven decisions. And so from going into like the data analytics role and now kind of pivoting back to almost systems engineering with the AI governance work and developing those frameworks and requirements, I think just having those insights and valuable skills have helped me grow. Um, and do you mind expanding upon the last part of the question as well?
It was just like one accomplishment you're proud of or joyful about.
Yeah, yep. So I think within like the last um year, I'd say some of the accomplishments that I'm proud of is one, getting more exposure to executive leadership and building out in the data analytics role I was building out these dashboards for executive leadership, and that was extremely important for like their meetings that they needed. And so just kind of having that contribution to a greater goal was important to me. But then also, I think in the new role that I'm in pertaining to AI governance, just um, doing groundbreaking work and kind of developing those inaugural frameworks at the company for responsible AI use, and being a part of a great intelligent team has really been impactful to me in my career, and just definitely looking forward to growing that area.
I love that for you. Okay, thank you for answering my questions. So just to leave off, for those who are watching your story and your walk, what advice would you give, as what last words or advice do you have?
Yeah,
Any?
I think it's kind of been a constant through the conversation, but just always be willing to learn. I think the learning doesn't stop after you get your degree. Although some may wish that, I don't think that's useful to one in building upon their career, because some things aren't always one-to-one from what you learn in college, and you might have to expand upon that, or you might have to get a new certification. So just always, I think, always be curious and always be willing to learn. Having mentors in that support system, building that community is just very important when navigating, especially early on in your career, because sometimes you go into your early career and you're like, I'm eager to do all the things. And you might have to kind of, like I said earlier, find your niche and understanding maybe 3 key areas that you want to explore, and then getting experience in those 3 areas, and then kind of determining, okay, I liked this area the most, I like to proceed forward with that. Or if you kind of understand what you don't like. So I think just having always like a keen willingness to learn and networking. I know it's cliche, but it really works. And having people, because you never know when someone's going to say your name in a room where you're not present. And I think having those established connections, both on a personal level and professional, I think can just take you to areas where you may not even think you'd imagine going. So, and that kind of happened with me and landing at Northrop Grumman. I was in the process of looking for internships, and a friend of my dad's told him that Northrop Grumman was hiring, and that's pretty much how I got into the role. So it's really about who you know. I had no idea about the company prior, and so I had to do my own research, and I've gained so much experience. I've been on different teams, I've had different types of leadership, and I think just having that network of people really helps put your names in rooms where you may not be present, and just expound you to new opportunities overall.